like to say hello to all of my many friends, also to my many enemies. Once again, this is another time of sharing with Roosevelt, and Roosevelt Sounds Off. And on today or this afternoon, whenever you happen to be catching this video, I'm up late and everything doing this video. It took me a couple of hours to do because many of you all do not see or don't know the whole process that I go through, or any YouTuber goes through for that matter, whenever we do a video. It's a whole lot of, sometimes it's a whole lot of like research and everything to be done. And basically this stems from something that I had found on Facebook on Saturday morning. It was something in my news feed. Now, I think this story, I didn't even know about this story, but I think this took place sometime last year, possibly. And even though it took place last year, I still decided I wanted to make a video and share it with you all out there just to see what you think. Because I know what I think and I know what I'm going to say during the rest of my commentary. But I decided to share the rest of it with you all because I don't know if anybody knows about this story or what happened. There was this group. It's basically a Black Power group called New Era. I've marched with New Era in a couple of police brutality protests, and I've also marched with New Era when we were protesting the Misha Beauty supply store here in the south side of Chicago. So that's New Era Chicago that I worked with. But the story that I have and that I picked up on is a news story about New Era Detroit. And what New Era Detroit did was go into a church. I guess they interrupted the service around the time the offering was taking place, and it caused an outright brawl. New Era Detroit, I'm about to say New Era Chicago. I think that overall they were peaceful, but it seems like the people in the church, when they were trying to remove them, were the more violent ones, at least to me from the way I saw it. But I do have a clip of the video which did go viral, and I also have the video of New Era's response, and I also have the news story talking about this particular incident. This incident took place at Greater Faith Ministries, where Pastor Wayne T. Jackson is the pastor. And so I'm going to play these, I'm going to roll these clips. It's going to be 3, and hopefully you'll get a chance to see. But it took me so long to do this, or to research this whole story, because when I was pulling up video clips and researching this story, I found other things pertaining to giving and tithes and offering, and it's like other stories and other clips that I'm going to play after this, because when I was researching this story, I was finding other things that left me feeling very bad, and it left me feeling deeply disturbed as I began to dig more into certain things that many of these churches do and say in order to get money. I'm even going to bring you a couple of clips of a woman who is 94 years old who was actually kicked out of her church because, she was sick or couldn't make it to church, so she didn't tithe. And the story of another lady that when she passed away, the church refused to funeralize her, even though this woman was in nursing homes and everything for a couple of years and sick and spent her last 2 months of her life in a coma. They still decided not to funeralize her, all over money. And the reason why New Era Detroit was protesting this particular church is because you see all these big churches and everything, all of these fancy churches where the church is rich, but there's something wrong. Anytime you can have a big mega church and the pastor drives a big fancy car, lives in a mansion, and you have all this big fancy church, but yet many of the people in the community is crumbling where the church is, and you can have a whole lot of people in these pews that need to eat, but a whole lot of these pastors, if you were broke or whatever, wouldn't drop a dime in your lap. So I think that's what New Era Detroit was protesting, but I'm going to run these clips and let you all see, and then I'm going to come back with the rest of my commentary and the rest of these stories.
Let's go. Bro, let me go, man. Let's go. Bro. Bro, let me go, man. You ain't got a manhandle me like this, nigga. I got my legs. No, let me go. Let me go, nigga. No, you ain't got to touch me, man. You ain't got to touch me, dog. You ain't got, I don't give a damn. You ain't got to touch me, nigga. Dog, don't touch me. You don't know me, man. Don't touch me. Dog, don't touch me, man.
You got one more time, bro.
Don't touch me, bro.
You got one more time.
Don't touch me, bro.
Let's go.
Don't touch me, bro. Bro, get off of me, man. All right. One more time, my ass.
Let's go. Let's go. Hey, let's go. Let's go. Oh, okay. Okay.
All power to the people. Let me go, man. All power to the people.
Get up out of here.
Fake ass nigga. Record this shit. Record this fake ass. I see this bitch ass. Y'all my God, right? Y'all my God, right?
Let's get up out of here.
Bad situation, baby. Gonna be a bad situation.
Y'all got to go.
All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. Let's go. What you want to do, boy? Let's go. What you want? All power to the people. What you want? Let's go. Let's go. Touch. Let's go. Touch. Let's go. Touch. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Women? Don't touch no women. Women? I know you got a bounce. I know that much. All power to the people. 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 Y'all ain't shit with some boo looking ass. Jesus inside you, son. Jesus inside you. Don't get the touch of me. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. I'm making it hard. We're not gonna fight. You talking to the wall? We don't bring the ass. What about the community?
All power to the people.
Just roll out. Roll out. Boy, let's go. Let's go. No conversation. Y'all respect us. Y'all respect us. Y'all respect us. Don't follow us. Go and make us like your building. You don't break us out your building. Hey, let's go. Hey, trouble back there. Hey, we don't want to be the we got police officers here. So what? What the fuck is police gonna do? Nobody give a fuck about police. You're wrong. You're wrong. Queen. Come on, Kier. Queen. Get back. Queen. Power.
Y'all know y'all messed up. We got it on video. Y'all put your hands on them.
Hey, let's go.
power to the people. We just left Bishop Jackson church, and we went in there. We were very displeased about the current situations. Not only him letting Donald Trump come, to our communities, just in general, his rhetoric as a preacher. This is about the people. All this is about the people. The people are very displeased at the black churches, some of the black churches, especially these mega churches, but we not standing for that no more. And if we continue to allow the churches to continue to do the things that they're doing and get away with it, then what does that say for our community and the future of our youth in the churches?
I'm just flabbergasted in regards to just the reaction, from the people that was actually the congregation itself. How they were volatile as soon as we said all power to the people. This people are Christian and people of faith and peace and love. And, well, that's what it's supposed to be. But the first reaction is you chant all power to the people. They violent. Even if you felt that we were in the wrong, hypothetically, is your first reaction is violence? Because we didn't come in there violent. We didn't come in there to be violent. We came in there to hold the pastor accountable. It's already a big issue that you look at the city of Detroit, which is over 40%, 39% of the population is impoverished. You're talking about people who making less than $11,000 per household in income. You're talking about a place that's almost 3 times the national rate of unemployment. You're talking about a place that's being gentrified. You're talking about a place where the education level is poor. You're talking about all these things, and here you are with an abundance of wealth, getting $1,000 of donations, and inviting known racist bigots to the city of Detroit, and then you have a problem with us holding you accountable. To me, it's just crazy. And the congregation within it, it seems as though they have some kind of violent acts as well. I just don't understand the hypocrisy behind it.
Bro, let me go, man. Let's go. Bro, let me go, man. You ain't got a manhandle me like this, nigga. I got my man. No, let me go. Let me go. No, you ain't got to touch me, man. You ain't got to touch me, dog.
All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people.
We're in Detroit. All power to the people. 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 What kind of power y'all got? Black power. What kind of power y'all got? Black power. All power to the people. 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 How y'all feel? How y'all feel? How y'all feel? How y'all feel? And it don't stop.
It don't stop.
Well, there's no peace in this house of worship. New Era Detroit stages a protest that turns into a brawl. That video right there has since gone viral.
Now, this is the same church that recently hosted Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. But this protest is about more than just politics. Fox News' Randy Wimley live now with the exclusive story. Randy.
Yeah, guys, this has a lot more to do than just politics. New Era Detroit, they call it church accountability. Taking congregations to task for not serving the community, in their estimation, as those churches should. They say something doesn't add up when a pastor makes a lot of money, drives a luxury car, and yet the people who live near his church are in poverty. A scuffle inside the sanctuary after New Era Detroit protests during a worship service.
Bro, let me go, man. Let's go.
Zeke, the leader of the group, offered no apologies for the dust-up at Great Faith Ministry Saturday, only the reasoning behind it.
This situation is bigger than just Wayne T. Jackson. This is about black churches and black pastors who live a lavish life on behalf of the people, and they're not giving back to their community.
He's referring to Bishop Wayne T. Jackson, the wealthy pastor that welcomed Donald Trump, drives a Rolls Royce, and lives in a mansion. Zeke was there for the offering Saturday.
When they started the offering at $1,000, and then they said if you don't got $1,000, then do $300. And if you don't got cash, then we got ATM machines. I don't understand that logic. I don't understand that way of thinking, and I don't understand that to be what religion is.
New Era Detroit says the neighborhood surrounding Great Faith Ministries is by and large impoverished.
This guy has networks, churches, fancy cars, you know what I mean, $1 million houses, and there's babies in this community that's going without food at night. Somebody has to be frustrated about this enough to do something that will get people's attention, and that's what New Era Detroit did.
Here's the thing. Pick up the phone. Call. Right. I want to talk to you, Apostle. Right. Apostle's a very fair man. He would meet with you. He would talk to you. What's your issue? But to do it that way, that is so disrespectful.
And members of Great Faith Ministry say New Era Detroit has their church and their pastor all wrong.
Our bishop give away homes, cars.
They say he's an astute businessman. Juanita Kinney says he's one with a heart of gold.
And when he found out that I didn't have anywhere to live, within an hour he was calling me back, telling me to go and look at an apartment. And because of that, and because of the love from him and his wife, I now have my own place.
You should talk to people that he's hired. Ex-cons, people that were in prison. He's done so much work for this community. They're homes that he's bought and gave to people. But Zeke don't know that.
Many feel New Era Detroit crossed the line and violated a sacred space. They even drew comparisons to Dylan Roof, the man who walked into a church service and gunned down 9 people in Charleston, South Carolina.
They can't come in here and think they're going to take over our service, have our women and children, mothers up in here terrified, and they're talking about that they are out there protecting the community. Right. This is a community up in here.
Right. Hindsight is 2020. Given all this being said, would you do it all over again?
Absolutely. We would definitely do it all over again. Would we tweak something? Absolutely. We will probably tweak up a few things and change it, but going back, no. We would definitely go in there again, and they better get their act together because we just might be back.
Even so, the leader of New Era Detroit says he is open to having a sit-down with Bishop Wayne T. Jackson and the pastors of other churches that New Era Detroit has protested. Stay tuned. Hugh, Taryn?
Well, Randy, I mean, $1,000 is a lot of money to ask for an offering, but you said about a conversation, but what does the New Era group want the bishop to do, and what do they plan to do if he doesn't?
Well, you heard just in that last soundbite, they may show up here again. We don't know if that's going to happen, but he said that's something that they're definitely open to. But New Era Detroit, they say they want to see churches doing more to better serve and improve the living conditions of the communities in which those churches are in. And so this is a story that raises a lot of questions about the function of a church. What does a local congregation owe the community that it's in? And so New Era Detroit, they're definitely raising that issue. They say there are some churches that are doing a good job of this, but in their estimation, there are many that are not. Great Faith Ministries being one of them.
It is certainly interesting because we know he's not the only rich preacher out there. So obviously more to come on this one. Thanks, Randy.
Okay, now you just saw those 3 clips. Sorry if they were kind of long, and for the clips I had to use, that falls under fair use, by the way. Now let me tell you what I think of this particular story. Now many people try to say that New Era Detroit violated a sacred space. Many people try to say that they were out of order for interrupting a church service. Now, when I saw this, I thought it was an amazing thing that they did. But at the same time, now if I had to do it or be the head of it, like Zeke is the head of New Era Detroit, I don't believe personally I probably would have done it like that. I don't think I would have done it like that. But you talk about, or should I say, not you, but they talk about New Era Detroit invaded a sacred space. And I want to know something from Greater Faith Ministries and Reverend Wayne T. Jackson. And this is to Apostle Wayne T. Jackson, even though I know it's not very likely that Reverend Jackson will ever see this video, but I'm going to say it anyway. Reverend Jackson and to members of Great Faith Ministries in Detroit, Michigan. How can you say that your church is a sacred space when you invited President Trump, or at the time, candidate Trump, to speak at your church. You're inviting someone who's known to be racist and Islamophobic and xenophobic, homophobic, any kind of phobic that you can mention into your sacred space. By bringing this man, first of all, who's a politician, who you put up, Pastor Jackson, in front of your people to manipulate and lie to your people. No, it all goes out the window. You have just violated your sacred space. So at this point, the way I see it, any kind of a church, any kind of pastor that had anything to do with bringing Donald Trump to town, to me, is automatically public enemy number one. Just like in a couple of videos ago, if any kind of church here in Chicago supports, or that has supported Mayor Daley, or supported Mayor Rahm Emanuel, that church in my eyes is public enemy number one. Any other church here in Chicago or the state of Illinois that has supported Bruce Rauner, that church is public enemy number one. No. Because you don't bring in these politicians and as a pastor, put these politicians over your people to lie and manipulate the people into voting for these people. When you know good and well the policies of a Donald Trump or the policies of a Rahm Emanuel or Richard Daley or Bruce Rauner is not going to do nothing for you, pastor, or the members who are sitting in your pews every single Sunday. Oh, let me take that back. Maybe it can do something for you as a pastor, because I want to know, Apostle Jackson, how much did Donald Trump pay you off in order to come into your so-called sacred space? I wonder, did he give a big offering or big donation secretly? Did he help to buy this Rolls Royce that you're driving around? So, you know, it makes people question these kind of things when pastors do these kind of things and put these kind of people over their people. First of all. Now, second of all, dealing with New Era Chicago, like I said, I don't believe, or New Era Detroit, I don't know how come I keep saying New Era Chicago, but New Era Detroit, I don't believe I would have done it like that, but it had to, I think it's something, looking at it on the other hand, that had to be done, because it is truly something wrong whenever you have a pastor who's wealthy, who drives a Rolls Royce, and who lives in a mansion, but yet people around the community are starving, don't have enough money to eat, don't have enough money to sustain themselves, and the community's just crumbling, and your church is just standing there in the community? No, something's wrong with that. And the worst part is, you heard him say that when they did the tithes and offering, they started, you know what? I hate churches that do this kind of stuff. Start and offering off with these lines, $1,000 line, $500 line, $300 line, $100 line. No, you just tell, why are we setting amounts, you know, for offerings to pay into the house of God? Just set, or just, if you're going to take up an offering, just say, give how the Lord has blessed you. Because all of this kind of stuff, it looks bad because it's a pyramid scheme. The one who's at the top, mainly the pastor, is the one who's getting paid and all the money, and everybody who's down below is suffering or, you know, not having enough to eat and not having anything. I mean, it's so bad with these churches. Like I said, going down the rabbit hole and doing my research for the story, it took me like 3 hours to find like all these video clips, and these next clips I'm gonna play for you, including of one idiot, Pastor Creflo A. Dollar of College Park, Georgia, who actually said that people need to die. because or if they don't pay tithes. This is what he said. I'm going to roll for you the clip right now of what Pastor Dollar wants to do. Or something that he said, even on a radio show later on, he said he was being facetious, but yet I believe that he's serious as all outdoors. So let me roll the clip of this.
I mean, I thought about when we first built the dome, I wanted to put some of those little moving bars and give everybody a little card. They stick it in a little computer slot, and if they were tithing, beautiful music would go off, and you know, welcome, welcome, welcome to the world dome. But if they were non-tithers, the bar would lock up, the red and blue lights would start going, the siren would go off, and a voice would go throughout the entire dome. Crook, 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 crook. Security would go and apprehend them, and once we got them all together, we'd line them up in the front and pass out Uzis by the ushers. We point our Uzis right at all those non-tithing members because we want God to come to church. And at the count of 3 Jesuses, we'd shoot them all dead.
Fire. 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 Fire.
I would certainly try it.
Okay, now you just heard what Pastor Creflo Dollar has said. For all the non-tithing members, we will give everybody Uzis passed out by the ushers, and on the shout of 3 Jesuses, we will shoot them all down. You know what? I don't think Jesus died just so churches could get money, and just so pastors can drive around in Bentleys and Rolls Royces and Ferraris and Mercedes Benz. No, that didn't happen. And you are I'm talking about Pastor Creflo Dollar now. It's saying that people should die all because they don't tithe or choose not to. You know, I believe in speaking life. If anything, I believe in praying life. But you're saying that people should die all because they don't give tithes. I mean, it's just so bad and stuff with this whole money thing and whole tithing thing. I mean, this thing is supposed to be about God. It's definitely not about us. It's not about no pastor. And it's not always about any kind of a money. Even though I know, looking at it from the side of the churches, I can definitely understand that it does take money to run churches because, I mean, you do have bills. I mean, you have light bills, you have gas bills, and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, I know a church has bills. And if you're on TV, I know that broadcasting is something that's very, very expensive. And I know that churches cover all these expenses through donations. Okay, I can give that to you. But at the same time, I don't think that money and tithes and offering should always be the main thought and always be the main focus of a church. So much so that in this next clip, or 2 clips I'm going to put together and show you. You know, a 94-year-old lady gets excommunicated from her church all because she's elderly and can't make it to church anymore and can't give anymore. And then in another clip after that I'm going to show you, a 93-year-old lady passes away and cannot be funeralized, or the pastor said that she can't be funeralized all because she didn't tithe. But yet this woman has tithed it all before and been in this church for years. You know, all of this, you know, finding a whole lot of these stories, I mean, it really, really, you know, it's something that really distressed me. Because I really don't believe that, you know, the church, you know, should be like this. And I really don't believe that God and Jesus and the Holy Ghost meant for churches to be like this. Now, I'm not trying to take away, because I'm definitely, if I got to talk about this thing, I definitely got to try to keep this thing balanced. Come on now, I'm not trying to say, please don't, before anybody gets upset with me, I'm dare not trying to say don't give. I mean, I know that we have to give. And I know by giving, there is a blessing. And I know that, you know, the Bible speaks of tithes, it speaks of offering, it even speaks of sacrificial offering. And I can understand that, like I said before, that it takes money to run a church, but I don't think that you should have to lie and put scare tactics upon people just to get it out of them. You know, all of this kind of stuff is not right. And I'm going to roll these last two clips before I get ready to close and let you see how some churches actually treat members, especially even, and these are elderly people who probably help to build up these churches, probably help to support these churches and everything over the years, how these churches can treat people just because they get sick and elderly and can't afford to tithe anymore. Let me go ahead and roll the clip.
Josephine King is no longer considered a member of the First African Baptist Church of Bainbridge, Georgia.
Gerald Simmons reads over the letter addressed to his aunt, 92-year-old Josephine King.
It's terrible.
The letter, signed by Senior Pastor Derek Mike, states that Miss King has shown non-support towards the church in the areas of, quote, constant and consistent financial and physical participation.
She was stunned. She was disappointed. She was shocked.
Simmons says his aunt was considered sick and shut in for several months, which explained her lack of attendance. He also says his aunt has gone above and beyond in the past to financially support the church.
You shouldn't chase the individuals down. You shouldn't do that. You know, if that's the case, you're money hungry.
Simmons says he knows his aunt isn't the first person to receive a letter of removal for not tithing and hopes this story will shed some light on the policy.
You got to have money to make these churches run, but it's not about money, it's about God. You got to put God first.
We tried multiple times to get the church's side of the story, but were unable to reach any members or officials. In Bainbridge, Catherine Patterson, WALB News 10.
I'm Isaiah Carey. Did the pastor of a local church really turn down a senior citizen who died's funeral because she didn't keep up with her tithe? I'll have what the pastor had to say coming up.
Fox 26 News at 5 starts right now.
A Houston family is angry after being told that its 93-year-old matriarch will not be buried by their home church. That family spoke with Fox 26, expressing both outrage and disappointment because of that. Fox 26's Isaiah Carey is live in the newsroom with The Factor Uncensored. Isaiah?
Well, Katie, we know the Bible tells us to give back to our place of worship. It's a common practice, almost expected. But should we be made to suffer if we don't give that 10% to the church or the man in the pulpit? One local woman says she had to peddle her mother's bodies from church to church to funeralize her because her home church absolutely would not.
Because it was like the last insult in the world. There was nothing else that I could do for my mommy but funeralize her in the church that she loved and worshiped all of her life, even as a little girl.
Barbara Day is understandably angry. She says her 93-year-old mother, Olivia Blair, died more than a week ago. Day says when she went to the church her mother has called home for 50 years, Fourth Missionary Baptist, to ask if the senior's funeral could be held there, she says she was told absolutely not by the pastor.
That she had not paid her dues and she had not attended the church in recent years, that they did not owe it to her. That he did not say we didn't owe it to her, but he said it was because of the dues and not attending the church. For the last 2 years, my mother has been in either a nursing home or she's been in a hospital. In the last few months, she was in a coma.
Day says her stepfather was buried at the church and her mother was a diehard supporter of Reverend Walter Houston at the church on Webster. That's why she can't believe the religious leader turned her down flat when it came to her mother's funeral.
there's no explanation for anybody that has been paying dues for a church that long for him to make me have to roll my mother's body around town, and somebody finally picks her up and say, yeah, we'll do the best we can. They knew she was ill. They don't care. All they care about is getting money, 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 money. Even retail stores give people more respect than that. I don't understand why we've become so commercialized with religion. What does this have to do with God? Why can't I give my mother her last wish to be funeralized in a church that she loves so much?
And that is Barbara Day, understandably upset. Now, joining us is Tyrone Jocks.
Yes.
You are the owner, publisher of PimpPreacher.com,
That's correct.
better
That's
known
correct.
as TJ.
Yes.
You first broke this story on your website. You reached out to us here in Houston.
Yes.
It actually got you on the road from New Orleans
Yes.
to Houston because this was so egregious to you.
Yes.
What did you think about it?
Well, we were contacted last week, and when we encountered this story, we couldn't believe it, and it really, my whole entire organization at PimpPreacher.com, was upset about it. This is primarily what we do. We deal with pastor accountability issues. So when we came across a pastor refusing to bury a member who had been a member for 50 years because of a tithing issue. Money, because of money, dues, whatever they want to call it, membership fees for a church. It caused us to drive over here, and I pleaded with this pastor. I pleaded with him all day Sunday. Last week, I said, look, hey, can you please reconsider? Please reconsider.
Walter Houston, and he absolutely said
told me
no.
absolutely not. He said he didn't want to apologize to the other families.
Now, also, I had a chance to speak with him this afternoon, and he said that this was about, she was no longer a member. She wasn't a member for 10 years, and she did not support the church financially. Her daughter, Barbara Day, says that's not true.
It's not true at all.
She left the church maybe 2 years ago when she became ill and was always dedicated, never went to another church.
Right, that's correct. And it's also important to note, because I asked the pastor, I said, well, why didn't someone go check on her? Why didn't someone go to reach out to her? And his reply to me, it was up to the family to notify him. And the comment that really set us off was, if the family cared so much, why didn't they at least send $1 to the church a week to reserve her membership?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
TJ from PimpPreacher.com. We want to thank you for driving all the way here to Houston.
man.
And you have a protest plan as well coming soon.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep you updated on the factor with that. Once again, we did reach out to Pastor Walter Houston to go on camera several times and extended him an invitation here on the factor, and he declined. In the newsroom for the factor, uncensored, Isaiah Carey, Fox 26 News.
Okay, you just saw the clip, those two news clips right there, that also falls under the category of fair use. I always got to say that because, using clips of these news things, you always got to let that be known. I was showing these news articles in here just to prove a point to all of you. Because before, I could only talk about these things. But with the magic of editing, I could take a whole lot of these news clips now, and I could take the evidence of every single thing that is going on. It don't matter what I'm talking about. It don't matter whether I'm talking about corrupt pastors, corrupt politicians, or corrupt police officers. I could take this evidence and sit it right in your lap. And that's exactly what I plan on doing here on Roosevelt Sounds Off. Because many people do not actually believe that this kind of stuff actually goes on. Many people actually believe when they hear me and other people and truthers on YouTube or Facebook or whatever talk about these kind of stories, they actually believe that we're making this stuff up. But as you saw from these clips that I played on today's program, no, I'm not making this kind of stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. It's almost too unimaginable to make this stuff up. The church is not supposed to be just about money to the point and everything that, it seems like the pastors are rich and the pastors are always up, and yet the congregation and the community around the church are always down. I mean, I heard one pastor, or matter of fact, I've heard several in my lifetime, because I've been in church just about all of my life. One pastor actually say, well, saints, when God start, no, not God now, I gotta say it like he says, when God, not God, God starts giving out blessings, he always blesses the head or the pastor first, because, you know, I am like the head, because when he starts pouring down them blessings, the blessings of God are like oil poured upon the head. So the oil falls down from my head and drips all the way down my beard and falls down on you. Oh, no, drips down your face and falls down on top of your beard. Oh, no, I don't want it. And then, you know, there's another pastor I saw on TV years ago, John Hagee, pastor of Cornerstone Church in San Antonio, Texas, saying that if a person doesn't tithe, then, you know, this is a scare tactic, saying, well, you know, any kind of money you have, you know, right now, if you don't tithe, your brand new Mercedes is going to break down in the middle of the expressway. If you don't give the 10%, something's going to happen to you, and you probably have to give 20. Or when you look out the window in the morning, the nice, beautiful birds that used to sing you beautiful songs will be placed by a big, ugly black raven. All kinds of stuff that people, you know, have used to put scare tactics upon people just to try to make them give. And as soon as I come across the story, I'm going to bring that to you too, because this is something that's trending about the pastor that's on Facebook saying or trying to collect a special offering just to get his car fixed. But yet, pastors and every single body else in church or people in the whole world wonder how come nobody wants to go to church. Because people don't want to go to church because they are tired of being made merchandise of by these pastors, which my old pastor, God rest his soul, said that they're not pastors, they're disasters. You know, they're getting tired of made merchandise of these pastors, and, you know, who pretend to look out for and be representatives of you and me. This kind of stuff, it needs to stop. Pastors need to stop, first of all, bringing these politicians, these lying politicians into their church, and they just need to let people just give. Give according to how God has blessed you. Stop setting dollar amounts. Stop putting scare tactics on people because they don't give or cannot even afford to give. I mean, golly, a whole lot of people can't afford to give. I mean, some people only get enough money every single month. I mean, it's hard enough just to try to keep your home together. I mean, you got pastors. Another thing Creflo Dollar did was saying, well, you know, you got to, not only him, but other pastors have said it too, that you got to give your way out of debt. You know, if you got a bill that's $500, if somebody blessed you with $300 towards the bill, oh, no. Don't put that $300 on that bill. Take that $300 and sow it into a ministry, because that's a seed. If it's not enough to fulfill your need, then that money that you got is a seed. Never eat your seed. You plant the seed. So therefore, you trust God enough in the interim to bless you with enough money for your need. When someone like Creflo Dollar never has a need, having 3 and 4 luxury cars and living in a big home in Atlanta, and even though he has a private jet, a couple of years ago tried to lie and say that he didn't ask for money for a brand new private jet, and it wasn't just any old kind of private jet either. This was the most expensive private jet that even millionaires are lining up for. That's a 4-year waiting list for. That's like $96-97 million. And it's the second fastest private jet made in the whole world. This is what he wanted. talk about, well, you know, the airlines and stuff that he could fly on don't fly his schedule. So he just can't do it. When there's a scripture in the Bible that says that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So, Pastor Dollar, what are you going to do about that? Good question. I think you need to ponder it. So, in closing, summary. What New Era Detroit did, even though, like I said, I wouldn't have done it that way. And they talk about, well, you need to just call the pastor. Many of these pastors in these big churches don't talk to individuals. So Zeke calling him wouldn't have done anything for him. Pastors need to stop bringing in politicians. They need to stop putting scare tactics upon people. Let people give whatever they're going to give, because at the end of the day, God loves a cheerful giver because he wants your giving to be your choice. It says, if a man is purpose in his heart, so let him give. Not under compulsion, not under, by necessity. Because God loves a cheerful giver. And any time that you are doing this kind of stuff and putting scare tactics upon people and setting dollar amounts, you're making people give out of necessity, which the scriptures speak against. So all of this kind of stuff, it needs to be put to an end. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Any of y'all who enjoyed this video, it was a long video, I had a whole lot to get out there, but I just had to do it just to make you think. If any of you all enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. So I hope that everybody will watch, share, and subscribe. I hope to see everybody on the next video. Peace and blessings to all.